Hello everyone and welcome to Learn Hittite for Complete Beginners. Today is class number 8 and in today's class we're going to be taking a look at some vocabulary. That vocabulary is going to be connected to the military. We'll also look at a little bit of cuneiform followed by the introduction of the Hittite conjunction and. So without any further ado, let's get stuck into it. Okay, so I actually plan every now and again to do a few of these vocabulary orientated classes. And for each class, I'll break down the vocabulary into a specific theme. So this time it's connected to the military, as I said before. And I think from the top of my head that the next two themes that I'm likely to cover will be something like household objects, I can do a vocabulary lesson on, and parts of the body. Now, when I was coming up with the vocabulary that we will learn today, I had two conditions in selecting the words. One was that I needed to feel the vocabulary is likely to be useful for you. That is, that it's a word which is reasonably often seen in texts. And secondly, it's actually probably connected to the first reason as well, I wanted that academically we have a good understanding of the word. So sometimes when you look at dictionaries, let's say connected to military items, weapons, you can see maybe 10 or 11 attested weapons in Hittite, but sometimes they can have a question mark after them, meaning we don't quite understand their exact meaning or how they were used. I tried to avoid words where there was any doubt connected to them and just give you commonly used or relatively commonly used and well understood vocabulary items. So that was the logic. And I, in my day job, often run language classes. And sometimes students ask me, how many words can I learn, effectively every week? And some students will, say that they feel like they can learn up to 100 words a week, 200 words a week, something like this. And to be honest, maybe for 1 week, you could learn at some level, 100 words, 200 words, but you won't do it every week. And when I was at Teacher Training College, we were always told that you should aim to deliver to your students 20 new vocabulary items per week, preferably split over 3 learning sessions. So let's say 7 words a session. Anecdotally, from my personal experience in the classroom over the past decade, I found that number to be quite accurate. And I've also read a variety of academic papers which support that number as well. Of course, as is everything with linguistics, you'll find some research that disagrees with that the number could be lower or that the number could be higher. But usually I advise people every learning session connected to vocabulary, you want to be aiming for about 7 up to 10, minimum 5 new vocabulary items each session. And today we have inside that range. I can't remember exactly, between 8 and 9 new vocabulary terms. Now, the first one we wouldn't actually count because if you watched the last class, Zahai, battle, common gender, we have already encountered when we looked at the lesson connected to the war in Alicia. Here, however, what is additional is I've added the sumerogram for the term also. Moving on now, where possible, I tried to incorporate some visuals to help stimulate the learning process. But I didn't just want to rip off images that I didn't have the rights to use, so I had to be a little bit selective. In future slides, when we'll look at weapons and things like that, I'm not saying that the weapon illustrated in the picture is an exact depiction of the Hittite weapon, so a Hittite bow, for example, or a Hittite spear. They're just there to help you learn. And here we have tuzi, again in the common gender, and it means troops or army, and we have the sumerogram below. Tuzi, troops or army. So what I would advise you to do is take a piece of notepaper, start writing these down, and later maybe transfer them to some flashcards, either physical or electronic. Moving on now, it starts to get a little bit interesting. We have the Hittite word for chariot. Here is our class indicator. So this means for wooden objects. And we have hulugani. Again, common gender. A lot of the vocabulary today will be common gender. and it means a chariot. I also found this pretty cool Hittite chariot here for you to take a look at. It could also mean wagon. They might not have differentiated between the two, but it was definitely used in a military context. Now, horse is actually a difficult one. We have the sumerogram here, and that's what they primarily used. As far as I'm aware, and I'm 99% sure, we don't have a reliable attestation of horse in Hittite, meaning that every example we have, they use this sumerogram here. We do, however, have an attestation in Hittite's sister language. Here it's hieroglyphic Luvian, and horse would be asua. Asua. How close this term is to the Hittite term is anybody's guess. People can speculate it. If you see any YouTube videos or resource online that gives a confident term for horse in Hittite, it will either be a term that's actually been derived from this, or that people have attempted to reconstruct from Proto-Indo-European. As I said, we don't have a reliable attested term. So we will rely on the sumerogram here. And to be honest, this is what you will see when you're reading your Hittite text anyway. Also, for those that are interested, I'm actually planning on doing a lesson specifically on this letter in Hittite and in Proto-Indo-European. If you would be interested in a lesson on laryngeals in Hittite and Proto-Indo-European, well, maybe not a lesson, but a lecture, please let me know. Moving on now. So obviously when we're talking about military endeavour, martial endeavours, hostility and hostile comes into play. We might be talking about hostile enemies, hostile land, or something like this. Here we have kuro. Kuro, it means hostile. And we have two related terms here. We have the verb kuuria, to wage war. And we have the sumerogram enemy or hostile with the appropriate noun indicator here. Perhaps actually a more accurate translation would be hostility. So we'll add that there. Okay, moving on to slide number 5 now. Unless I've stated specifically on the slide, all of these words I've taken from either the Elements of Hittite by Van den Hout or A Hittite Grammar by Hofner and Melchert. And I tried to cross-reference between both books to get reliable vocabulary. If I needed to use a third source other than those two, I have specified it here. Here we have turi, common gender, which means spear or lance. Turi. On to the 6th slide now. So we have bow and arrow, useful vocabulary combination here. Bow is reasonably common actually. You see it crop up quite often in Hittite texts, or at least I do. Here again we have the determinative for wooden objects. So this indicates obviously the classification of the object which follows. Again, we have it as a sumerogram. Nati, we have the actual Hittite form, nati. Common gender refers to arrow. There is a second term as well, which I've not mentioned here, but its reliability is not as good as nati, so we'll focus on learning this word. It can also mean reed. When I say reed, I mean the common reed, the flowering plant, not the verb to read, obviously, just making that clear. And the final word we're going to be looking at today is lahiyala. Lahiyala. Again, common gender, and this means warrior soldier. We obviously have our noun class marker here for male gender. And I found this interesting Hittite carving here for us to enjoy. Lahiyala. So that's the vocabulary covered. I hope that this kind of like list of vocabulary can be useful for people. As I said before, get them written down, get them copied out, put them on flashcards. Let's learn them. Whenever we learn a language, be it ancient or modern, we need to put in the hard work with just familiarizing ourselves with the vocab. However, it wouldn't be a language class without a little bit of, let's say, grammar. Can we call this grammar? I don't know. And we're going to be focusing on the conjunction and. The conjunction and works as an enclitic, and it usually attaches itself to the second word of the two words that you're trying to connect together. The enclitic is a after a consonant and ya after a vowel. So for example, here we have anas, which means mother, and atas, which means father. We should know these two words from previous classes. And if we wanted to say mother and father, we would simply add the a to atas. Anas, atasa. Mother and father. Anas, atasa. Mother and father. Interestingly though, very often in Hittite, we find that the enclitic conjunction isn't used and that we can just imply and by putting these two nouns together. So equally, you could find the form anas, atasa, but equally you could just find anas and atas together and the and is implied. Now we have a longer sentence here. Let me read it for you. Nu pithanas atasmas apan sania ueti hulanzan hulanun. Let me give you the translation. Nu, we know, we should be familiar with. It's our kind of introductory word. It's sometimes also translated as and. Pithanas, if you watched my video on who were the Hittites, we will know that this is the name of one of the founding kings of the Kasaran people who went on to become the Hittites. Atas is father, which we know from here. Mas means my. Apan, after. Sania. Okay, let's break this down because we've got the bit that we are interested in, the ya, meaning and sani means something like same. Sani, same. So it means and the same when we put the enclitic conjunction and here. Sani, I haven't checked, but I guess is probably cognate with, for example, in Slavic languages, we have Sami or Sama, which means alone or single. So maybe this is a cognate there. I don't know. I'd have to check. Ueti means year. Hulanzan means revolt, rebellion. In the accusative case, Hulanun means I suppressed. Sorry there, I hope you can read that well. So the full translation of this sentence would be, and after my father, in the same year, I suppressed a revolt. I believe, if memory serves me well, this refers to Pithanas suppressing the revolt in Nessa, the rebellion in Nessa. After Nessa was conquered by the Kasarans, a few months or about a year later, they had a rebellion, and the rebellion was subsequently put down, and we had kind of like the foundational period of the Hittites. But yeah, this is what I want us to focus on, because we can see the and in action here. I tried to find a sentence where we could see and in use that didn't rely on this kind of like invisible and connecting them together. And I wanted it to connect it with something that we've spoke about in previous classes or previous videos. And this is the one that I could find. And the same, it would translate as. And we have this ya form because of the vowel sign here. So yeah, this is how and works in Hittite. I want to just remind people that this a that we have here, we can remove, and often we can also just connect two nouns together by just situating them together in a sentence. This happens very often. There are some other signs which are occasionally used when there is a samarogram involved, but we won't go into that today. I want to give you the simple and for this vocabulary class, because it would be useful, for example, if you wanted to connect horse and chariot or bow and arrow, for example. If you wanted to read more about and, but you didn't want to go into too much dirty detail, in Van den Hout's Elements of Hittite, Chapter 1, Unit 1, they give a pretty good overview of it. It's not too complicated. And it doesn't go into all the exceptions and things like that. What else have we got for you today? Well, some fine viewers in previous videos expressed that they would like to see a little bit more cuneiform. Now, obviously, when we're working with Hittite texts, we usually see a form as I'm highlighting here now, which has been transliterated from the cuneiform. But here we go. We have hulugani, which means chariot, and we have the individual signs here that we can match up quite nicely. This sign here for the U, we've got it repeated here in turi for spear. So we've got those signs there. And here I have put in the nominative form battle, zahais. And again, we can match up our forms. So yeah, for those that are interested, we have the cuneiform presented to you. If you wanted to take the other vocabulary items from today's class, you can take a Hittite sign list and come up with your own cuneiform. And what lesson would be complete without some homework? Well, here I have a very small task for you today. I have presented some signs, cuneiform signs, and these will spell out a word. If you find a sign list and transliterate them all, you will get the syllables. You can write them under, and this will give you a word from today's class. What word is it? Please write your answers in the comment box below. Have fun with that. So let me know if you found this class useful. As I said, my proposition is in the future maybe we can look at household items and parts of the body. But that's all from me for today. I'll say goodbye. It was a pleasure having the opportunity to spend a few moments and teach you some Hittite. Have a great day and all the best for now.